A family of 4 was found dead inside their home in Wichita, Kansas. And there was no sign of forced entry, and no neighbors heard anything unusual during the night. Everything inside the house looked normal, except for the bodies, which were bound and strangled and left in positions that showed control rather than chaos. There was no clear motive behind the crime, and nothing had been stolen, which made the case even more confusing for investigators. Weeks later, another victim was found under very similar circumstances, and police quickly realized that this was not a random act, but someone repeating the same method. The victims were chosen carefully, and the killer showed patience as he studied their routines and waited for the right moment before entering their homes quietly. Once inside, he took full control of the situation without causing panic or drawing attention, which made it nearly impossible for anyone nearby to notice what was happening. Months passed, and fear spread across the city as more cases appeared with the same pattern and the same method. The killer left behind almost no evidence and did not make mistakes that could easily lead to his capture. Years went by without any clear suspect. And then something unexpected happened when the killer sent a letter to the police describing the murders in detail. The letter contained information that only the killer could know, and this confirmed that the same person was responsible for multiple crimes. He gave himself a name and called himself Bind, Torture, Kill, which later became known as BTK. The letters continued to arrive and were sent to newspapers and investigators, and each one included disturbing details about how he watched his victims and planned his actions. He explained how he entered homes and how he waited, and how he controlled his victims in a calm and calculated way. The letters created even more fear because they showed that the killer was still out there and wanted people to know it. Despite increased police efforts and more patrols and investigations, there was still no clear lead that could identify him. Eventually, the letters stopped, and the killings stopped as well. And many people believed the killer had disappeared or died or simply stopped. The case slowly became cold and was no longer active, and years passed without any new developments. Then, after more than 20 years, a new letter arrived, and it matched the same style and tone and content, which proved that the killer had returned. This time, investigators used new technology to track the source of the communication and analyze digital evidence that had not been available before. One of the messages led to a floppy disk that was sent to the police, and the killer believed it could not be traced. Investigators recovered hidden data from the disk and discovered a name which led them to Dennis Rader, who was living a normal life in the same community. He was known as a church leader and a city employee, and no one suspected him of anything unusual. Police began monitoring him closely and comparing evidence until they were certain of his identity. He was arrested in 2005. After decades of being unknown and hidden in plain sight. During questioning, he described the crimes in detail and explained how he selected victims and planned each step carefully. He showed no emotion while speaking, and treated the events as if they were routine actions rather than crimes. Investigators confirmed multiple murders connected to him, and the evidence was clear and undeniable. In court, he continued to describe what he had done, with full detail and without hesitation. He was sentenced to multiple life terms, and there was no possibility of release.
The case that remained unsolved for decades
was finally closed after all the missing pieces came together.